Hi, Bemi. It's wonderful to have you here with us today. Before we dive into the work you're doing now, I would love it if you could start with your journey. What first drew you to science, and at what moment did you realize that equity, mentorship, and advocacy would become such a central part of your work?
Thank you very much. My name is Bamidele Farinre. I am a Chartered Biomedical Scientist, an Agile practitioner. I'm an educator, an author of the book The Mentor's Journey from Learning to Leading. I'm a STEM advocate and a leader in STEM. What first drew me into biomedical science or science as a whole? Well, I actually wanted to be a pharmacist. Growing up. And the reason being, so I grew up in Nigeria. So my formative years was in Nigeria. And the community where I grew up, it was common that pharmacists were more or less the first point of contact for people within the health infrastructure. So you find that one pharmacist will attend to, I don't even know, hundreds of people within the community. So from then on, I'm like, oh, this is a very good, career to go into. I didn't know how to get into it or anything like that. So from then, from that very young age, I've always wanted to be a pharmacist so that I can help people within my community. But the universe had a different plan for me, as I always say. Early on, like in my teenage years, I moved here, to the UK with my family, my siblings, and so on my secondary education, college. College was my first setback. College was where I studied all sciences, of course, because I wanted to do pharmacy. But things didn't go according to plan because I failed. I failed all the four A levels that I did back then. And one thing that I would never forget, and I think is part of my story, is that the lecturer then told me that, Bami, if seeing you fail, I don't think you have what it takes to do science. You need to think about your career options and, what other things that you could do in life. So definitely that was devastating. Obviously, I'm suffering from the um, setback that I had initially, but I re-enrolled. I had a friend then that said to me, Bami, you just have to go again. Failing is not an option. So I went again, still didn't get the grades that I wanted, but that led me to then go and study HND applied biology. Thank you. And then of course my biomedical science degree. Then I moved on to do MSc in clinical microbiology, amongst other um vocational, professional certification and courses. And here we are today. So I think my story that I would say wasn't linear. I think that setback, I don't like to call it failure, was first of many for me, as you would know, especially for a Black woman in STEM. And I transitioned from the laboratory bench even into more senior leadership and strategic roles. Like I move into tech as well as agile practitioner. So that is my story essentially.
Thank you so much for sharing it, and particularly the setbacks, and also the fact that sometimes what you vision for yourself, something else materializes. You thought you'd be a pharmacist, but actually that's not the direction you've gone in the end. But also, and
Mm.
also, you didn't let other people's feedback hold you back. You decided you know what you want and you'll continue. So there's some great messages of inspiration for people just in your journey, let alone what else we're going to be discussing with you today.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. I always say when one door shuts, another one opens. There is
Mm.
a path that the universe, that God has for you, and you can't stop it. Uh, what's the saying? It's humans plan, God laughs, or something like
No,
that.
seriously, because I passionately wanted, and I loved chemistry. Like, I really wanted to. But you know what's funny in the journey as well? When I got admission to then study applied biology, then I had another letter then come in to say I can now study pharmacy at Kingston.
Wow.
But by then I was like, no, there's no point. I'm already, I just thought, you know what, I'm not going there again. So you are right in that. Yes.
Yeah, sometimes redirection really comes um at such a benefit to the greater world as well. A little birdie told me that you're doing something trailblazing and that you won an amazing contract. Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
Oh, right. Okay, I hear you. Okay. The little birdie is right, but it's not a contract as such. Well, you said the little birdie. Let me see if that little birdie is right. Let me see. Cause it's not a contract as such. So I'll give you a backstory to that. What that birdie told you. A little while late last year, there was a call for open call for ideas by the British Science Association to the people within the community to come forward and submit the ideas about what they want them to work on as a project within the All-Parliamentary Party Group that is responsible for EDI in STEM. And so I answered the call, as always, because I thought this is an opportunity. They're asking for our opinion, so why not? And I did. And the reason why I did, even though it did take me time, I took my time to think about what is one topic now that is critical to what we're doing in the society and in a profession. And that is personal to me as well. Not just me, the people in my community. Remember, I'm an advocate in STEM, advocate for people, for communities that I believe are underserved. So my submission was simply AI equity in STEM. And as the universe, as God will have it, because there was a lot of submissions, but my submission was chosen by the UK APPG as a flagship project that they would work on for this year into 2027. That is a major milestone. I don't need to say or overemphasize what AI is doing to us globally now. We can't get away from it. It's here to stay. How are we harnessing it? What are we doing? How are we leveraging? That was what my thought process was when I was writing this proposal. So what's in the proposal? Simply just fairness, for the underserved community to have a voice. The people that are actually at the receiving end of AI, the consumers, as you will call it, to be part of the conversation. Because as you know, a lot of tools that we use in the world at large, especially within our profession across different industry, you will find that sometimes the people that are at the heart of it are not part of the discussion. And that is important, because how are you ensuring representation for the tools that is meant to help people? So if that's what the little birdie told you, that is what it is. It is not a contract, it was a proposal. And it tells us that our voice has been heard. Like I see it as a platform. There was a platform, and I decided to take advantage of the opportunity, and look what it's led to. That year long is the lead of the project is Samantha Nibbler MP. And you know what that means. If you have the voice of the UK MPs in STEM on AI, you know what that means. There's going to be a change. It's going to drive policy change. And there's going to be, of course, at the end of it, there's visibility. That's what I want to say. There's going to be a lot of leaders, experts in the field of STEM, in technology, in science, academia, organizations. That's going to be part of this conversation.
Yes, I love this, and I love the positivity around change as well.
It really aligns with our podcast. That's what we're all about. This idea of AI for equity is whose voice is not getting heard, who is experiencing bias as a result of the AI, what are the problems that AI can solve and for which communities? And as you've said, if we're not part of this conversation, then there's a real problem, because the decisions get made without us. So it's so aligned with what we're doing. And we're so happy that you made that proposal, that you took the time out of your schedule to do it when you didn't have the time, I'm sure. And also that they had the foresight and the wisdom to choose your proposal. I'm really pleased to hear that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I am as well. You know, one of those projects that you get yourself into, and midway, I remember this, and I always tell it because it is part of the story. There was a point I was like, Bami, who sent you? Because that was how much time and, how much thoughtfulness, and the emotions that went into it as well. But then, that voice said to me, you've got to do this. I mean, you can't, if you're gonna, if this is part of the solution. So if you know you want a solution, you better be ready to do the work. And then, and then you can imagine the emotions when I read the email that my submission was successful. I mean, you would think that I've won a lottery. Seriously. It's
Yeah.
It's a message, and it's not just for the UK, it's across the world. I mean, with many of my mentees, with many people in my community reading that or learning about that milestone, they're very happy. It speaks volume, the people within in diaspora, especially the younger ones. Is sending a message. It's a positive message that's being sent out. You have a voice. You've got to use your voice. There is power in storytelling. If you know that you want a solution, you need to be a part of the solution. That is the message that is sending forth. And don't ever think yourself that you're not relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And this is the type of mentorship that my generation need. I feel like not enough people say these things to us or show us that, we can be part of the change that we want to see, and that, that difference starts with one person, not rather than a bigger community. When I was doing my research on you, I saw that you often speak about mentorship as a transformative force. And I was wondering what distinguishes mentorship that changes trajectories versus mentorship that simply offers advice, because maybe you've had some mentorship that I need to get on.
You know what? This is one of the reasons why I do what I do. What I have this passion for developing or inspiring the future generation. I lacked mentorship when I started in my career. And I'll tell you why that was. Remember the story that I failed and then, college wasn't as I wanted? Fair enough. And I got to university, especially when I was doing my HND applied biology, I thrived. I excelled, as in it was Bami back at full force. But still, I didn't have that somebody to say, oh, these are the career opportunities that are available for you. This is what you could potentially do. There wasn't that. There was no hand-holding. I practically walked the journey myself, like finding information wherever that is possible. The resources that was available then, or the type of mentorship that I would say was available then, was the teachers, the lecturers, but they're so limited in what access they have, in what information they have. They're not in the industry. So to some extent, they cannot tell you the array of careers that is available, how you can pivot, what will happen after you finish university. It took me 2 good years to find an entry-level role into biomedical science. I didn't know. If I had known one thing, let me tell you what information. If I had a mentor that walked that same journey, I'm sure there were a lot of biomedical scientists then, but I didn't have one to mentor me. So if I had known when I was doing my undergrad that if I do a 4-year course with an attached, what we call internship, that by the time I'm done, then that would qualify me. After I've sat the exam, written my portfolio, I'll be able to then do just move into the profession. That would have changed the way information, the decision that I'd made then. But so that was when I started out as well, when I then entered into the profession, it was still the same. As you know, when you start a job, you're trained to do the job. The onus is on you when you want to progress, how you go about it. Yeah, so that was why I thought this is lacking. Okay, I didn't have this. What can I do? And I didn't understand, or I didn't know fully then what it would entail. I just knew I wanted to help somebody. I've got the information, the people coming behind me, the graduates coming behind me, even before. So once the people that are in colleges, I started talking to the people in my community that, look, don't make the same mistake I made. There is a lot of information available. You know, one thing about information, when you have the right information, you're able to make informed decisions, which can play a lot of, which has a lot of importance in how the outcome that we have, both professionally and personally. So for me, mentorship is having somebody that's walked the journey. They don't have all the answers, remember. They haven't got it all mapped out, but they have a blueprint that you could walk on, that you could follow for you to be able to walk your unique journey. You don't even have to necessarily follow in their footsteps, but they will be able to tell you the do's and don'ts of, for example, the profession that you want to potentially go into. And for me, the transformation comes when advice is helpful, but transformative mentorship goes much further. When you talk about advice, it stays within the conversation, but sponsorship moves beyond that. A mentor might suggest to you that, oh, you should attend the conference, or go on Google, go and search the kind of career that's available, or apply for a leadership program. But a sponsor or a mentor will potentially turn into your sponsor, would introduce you to decision makers. I always say that your mentor could potentially turn into your sponsor, because they will mention your name in rooms that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to enter. You understand? And they will recommend you for what is available to you within your industry. And even if they don't have the answer, they will refer you. That's where referral comes in. So that so the difference there is opportunity that is made available to you. So for me, mentorship, I believe, changes the trajectories, and it actively opens doors. Now I can say that I have mentors, because then, like people that before I used to look up to, but now I know how to approach them. That's another thing. Knowing when you need one and how to approach.
I'm going to
Because
take a step back. Can I take a step back in our conversation? Because I think you've said so many interesting things. I don't want them to be lost. I
thank
think
you.
there's something really interesting about what you said about having a mentor. I think that part of this is there's some people assume that everyone knows how to navigate. You might be the first person in your family who's gone to university or into this career. You might know the system in your country, but come to another country and you don't know the system here.
Exactly.
And people assume you'll know how to navigate. And a mentor can really help you learn how to navigate a system that you're not familiar with. I think that's an important thing that people don't realize. It's not enough to have a qualification. You need to navigate the system as well. And mentors can really help you with that. But the other thing I wanted to draw on is that often when I'm doing work with people from minoritized group, whether that's women, in a male-dominated environment, or those from ethnically diverse backgrounds, sometimes people think it's cheating. Sometimes they think, oh, I'll get advice that someone else doesn't have. Someone's going to open the door for me. That's a bad thing. This has always been happening in the world.
Yes.
It's always been happening. It's just, in a way, an invisible system that you haven't been part of and that you need to plug into. So what you're saying is, by getting a mentor and potentially a sponsor, you're plugging into a system that, as they talk about, the old boys club has always been around, and we just weren't allowed in it. And you're creating new ways to be able to plug into that system. So I think I wanted to offer that to help people think about it, because sometimes in the back of people's minds, they're thinking, oh, I probably shouldn't have that unfair advantage. But, it's actually everyone else is doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah. And you saying that now, this just brought this to my mind. Think about it. If that's the case, then everybody's cheating. Think about organizations, or how do you say? Okay, let's take Tesco's, for example. They will be sending us surveys. Why are they sending us surveys? I'm just using that as an example. Why do they want the consumers, the customers' feedback?
To
Yeah.
make
So they,
yeah,
go
so
on,
they
Leah.
can get more information, so they
Then
can
in
know
that
what
case,
to do.
exactly, everybody's cheating if that's the case. So and it's a mindset as well. It's a mindset, because if you're thinking, asking for help for you to better yourself, they say together we can go further. It's like as a student, you okay? Can you now say that you studying or doing extra classes is cheating?
No. Yeah.
So I know it's a mindset thing, and we could go on and on, but I just wanted to put that in. Why
Thank
are companies consistently improving? Look at technology. Remember the age of when we had the cellular phones that were carrying about? No, even before the cellular phones, you had phones in the house that you can't even carry out. They did something to get to where we are today. Yeah, I just needed to add that.
Yeah, and also you can contribute more, can't you? The more support you have, the better you are, whatever you're doing. So it benefits everyone. But I know sometimes people need a shift of mindset. I know you've worked within healthcare systems for over a decade. From your perspective, how do institutional cultures either support or suppress diverse talent, particularly in the scientific and medical professions?
That you see that question that you've asked, yeah, it's really is dear to my heart. Um, for me, I feel that institutional culture, it can either nurture talent or suppress talent quietly. And I've experienced both sides of the culture. What I found is like you will see many organizations unintentionally, they prioritize. I purposefully use the word unintentionally. Prioritize like very specific type of leadership. And I find that sometimes the people or the community individuals that do not mirror that prototype, they may be viewed as a risk rather than an asset to the organization, to the company. And when you think about culture as well, it's systemic. Culture is mindset as well. It's mindset. And if we want to change culture in any area within the profession space, across different industries, we need a mindset shift. When you think about supportive culture, they create psychological safety, as you would call it, where like professionals, I'm sure you've heard this word a lot, bringing our full self, our full identity to work, without constantly having to adapt ourselves to fit in, and when this happens, you find that people will flourish, because people feel safe, to be able to, contribute to ideas. But in a place where you're constantly being choked, you're consistently working twice as hard than other people that have, like one thing I know is everybody have access. Yeah. But not everybody can enjoy the access. I'm sure you understand what I mean by that. In a work environment, there's some resources available to us, correct? Yeah. Well, they've made available. You will be amazed that some people cannot access that resources, even though it's available to everyone. I've been in situations where I've been told to wait, because for me, I'm always going for opportunity. If it's there, I want to take advantage of it. It does not matter whether it's at the level that I'm working at, I'm aiming for a higher level. So obviously I need something to put me on the pedestal for that next level that I'm going into. But I've had instances where you've like, you gotta wait. We gotta give the other people that are not even interested.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah.
you know, I
I
think you
think
want to say something to that.
Yeah, I think, you're making such interesting points. And you know what, Bemi, when you're really good at your job, sometimes people keep you there. It's like they know that, okay, she's so good. I probably have to replace her with 3 people because she works so hard. Let me keep her where she is. And then
Mm,
that can be demoralizing because you're stuck there. You're not being able to get the opportunities. Other people are coming up and being promoted above you. And I
mhm,
think it's that idea of really seeing what's happening and either challenging it, moving team, moving department, or moving organization before it affects your confidence. So
yeah.
things you're saying are so important. Yeah, are you safe? Can you speak up? Can you ask why you're not the only one who you're the only one who doesn't seem to be allowed to go for opportunities right now?
Mhm,
You know,
mhm,
whatever it is, you don't have access to the same development, the same whatever it is as other people. You don't get to sit in the meetings, or you're not being considered. What is
mm,
going on there? So finding those opportunities. Yeah, and I think the field is similar. I guess, what we find in scientific and medical professions is that you've got very highly educated people
mm,
who have all the book smarts and maybe are getting even more qualifications and even more knowledge, but still sometimes being overlooked.
mm,
And
mm.
thank goodness there are mentors and supporters like you around to make sure that things will change, but it's very slow.
Yeah, it's really, really slow. And it's even slower being women and women of color as well. It always trickles down to us, it feels
Mhm,
like. I was speaking to a few of my other friends from university who were in STEM and studied STEM degrees, and they were saying how different it feels to be women specifically in STEM. Um, I went to a not technical. It was it prioritized STEM degrees, my university. So medicine, sciences, anatomy, things like that were really, really put on a pedestal and given the
mm,
most funding. But somehow it was almost like the men seemed to progress a lot faster than the women. And we're still I am still seeing that kind of now
mhm,
with some of my friends, and uh, they've been saying to me, STEM feels like a meritocracy, um, but but is it, is it? And I was wondering how accurate you think that narrative actually is, and what realities do people need to understand when they're going into STEM careers?
I think, there's a lot of multifaceted, how would I say it, uh aspects to this question that you've asked. You are right in the sense that I've found that, even imagine, it's going to nearly 2 decades now that I've been in STEM. Yeah. And imagine how far long ago that is to what you're even saying now. We're still experiencing that. One thing I noticed: medicine, engineering, and I think those people that wants to become lawyer or anything that has to do with legal, they are prioritized. And even still now, the way they will say, oh, the application for medicine is the first one that comes around, blah, 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 and things like that. But one thing I would say is, it's not even about studying those degrees, subjects. It's about what happens after you now finish. It's about what happens after you finish.
It is.
Because you finish, do you know the thousands of graduates? Let me even use biomedical science as an example, that are coming out year in, year out with no opportunities. And then you find there's a leakage, consistently leaking of talent, people that have spent years. And these courses, they're not cheap. They're not cheap. They're expensive. The time only for you to come out, and you can't even get in your foot into the door. Let me tell you, like 90% of the people that come to me as that I end up mentoring, this is the trajectory. And imagine you can't even go in. That's your career over already. You're gonna have to um think about other options for you. And then that's why you find a lot of people now, either they're moving into other industries, or they're going the entrepreneurial, route and things like that. And then you're thinking, what can we do? And that is what I advocate for. Let's start from even college. Let there be partnership. Let's work together. Let's not do this silo working. We are bringing out this pipeline that have no idea how the world of work, how it works. Do you understand? We don't know how it works. So don't get me wrong. This is not a problem that's going to be fixed overnight, but it needs collective collaboration of especially decision makers. There's no point us making noise if you're not going to be heard. We need people of influence, that would say, this is how we can do it. Let's work together. There's one thing that there's one organization that I work with, like for T-levels. T-levels is like for people, maybe they don't want to go the university route and things like that. It's like more vocational, just like how I did HND applied biology then. But the UK, they were looking to scrap it. I wrote an article about it that I don't, but what can you really do? Because they must have their reasons. I think they did publish the reasons as to why they think there's not enough uptake. There's not enough uptake because people are thinking, what is the point? What am I going to become after I finish? And this bias that you're talking about, I don't know if it's ever going to go away. There's this mantra that I have. I say no ceiling. I want as a whole, as humans, that we're able to live in a world where we can one at a time remove things that stands as a ceiling to our progression. These are ceilings. A lot of them invisible, a lot of them visible. How do we remove them? That is the,
That really is the question. I love that no ceilings and no barriers to improvement and furthering ourselves. I feel like in this new series, there seems to be a bit of an echo where everyone is saying, we need more community. That's kind of at the basis. We need more community. We need to come together, and we need to make the world a better place for young people. You were talking a bit about university leavers and graduates not being able to get jobs, and I was reading an article that said, I think it was 60% of grad jobs are being replaced with automation and AI. And how do we deal with not only the age bias, but also the gender and race bias and ableism as well? How do we all counteract that? I do think I also would love to pose a different perspective. You said you're not sure if bias will ever go. Obviously, everyone is programmed with bias, but this bias problem didn't start overnight, so it won't be an overnight fix. But I do hope that one day that we won't face negative repercussions just because maybe right now people would prefer a man in different jobs. I hope that when I have children, they won't have the same barriers that maybe I did or my mum did or you did,
Yeah, I think it's a sad reality of the world that we live in. If it's ever going to be eradicated, I am not sure. But this is one thing. We are planting the seeds now.
Yeah, exactly.
We are planting the seeds now. That is why we can't keep quiet. We want a better world. Let me give you an example. I told you from my formative years was in Nigeria, correct? Yeah. My parents then, they're thinking, I want a better life for my children. What can I do? Their world back then was different. What they know was different. Even bringing us to the United Kingdom, they don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but they thought, let them just come. So that was a seed that they planted. Now, navigating our lives as individuals, was then up to us. They had a part to play, but I know throughout college, because my parents didn't understand, I think Jenny mentioned earlier on that one could be the first in the generation that would go to university, although that's not my case, but moving from one country to nation to another, my parents didn't really understand how the education system works. Do you understand? But they've brought me. So I had to navigate myself, which is fine because now I'm in a position to help other people. Like parents back home that thinking, I want to come here. What is it? We are able to give them better advice. They planted a seed. And that is what we're doing now, because I definitely do not want I have a daughter in college now. In university. We're trying to open doors for them so they have even better access than we had. And then, so like I said, it starts with the seed. That is what we're fighting for. So we're not just making noise. We want a better world where if a child says, I want to be an engineer, they're not thinking twice. They can be it. But one thing I love that I've seen in our community as well is that if a child wants to be a lawyer, then that's what they're going to be. Nothing stops them. I don't know. It's a culture mindset. It's a cultural thing that is inbuilt, is innate. It can't even be stopped. Do you understand? Whatever they want to be, they will face challenges on the way. Absolutely. I'm sure you've heard of many stories of Black women, especially, that are like, oh, I wanted to study this. It was only me. It's true. It's true. And when it comes to even progressing in your career, you will find that you have to work twice as hard. Don't get me wrong, we have a small percentage that things work for them. So it's not a story for all, but majority is that you really have to work yourself off. You have to prove yourself, like over and over and over again. And it comes to a time that you start doubting yourself. You start having that doubt that, is this really me? That's when what we call imposter syndrome. It starts settling in. I don't like that word, but it does settle in. You'll be amazed. Even as I'm speaking now, I'm thinking in my mind, just make sure you say the right thing. You
The fact is, what we're talking about is
know?
so interesting, because we're talking about the experience, our lived experience. But I do think that I would be surprised if we ever got rid of bias, because every
No.
single one of us has bias.
Oh, yes.
It's just different biases we have.
Mm.
I think the most we can ask for, and maybe I don't want enough, but I see, is that we become conscious of our bias and we put things. If we could use AI, if I said I'm biased, just say, when I recruit people, I like to recruit women. If the AI could say, Jenny, remember you do have this bias for women. Do you want more diversity in your organization? If the AI could help me think and challenge my bias, because that's the problem, that in the moment we revert. I'm going to say, that woman, she was friendly, or she can bring this, or she can bring that, because I might have an affinity for women. And if the AI could help me challenge it in the moment, that would be great. And I think, maybe that's, for me, that would be a great use of AI. If AI could help us challenge our bias and reveal the bias in its own answers, it all becomes a lot more clear to everyone. But at the moment, we've got our biases. We don't even know we have them. AI is biased. We don't know what bias it has. And we're just living in that it's very foggy. And if it could be clear, I think that would be a really good way forward for all of us. Yeah, I mean,
No.
you've talked a bit about what you want for the next generation. I don't know if you think that institutions have a responsibility, and what that responsibility might look like, because in reality, what we're saying is they've been failing people for generations. Institutions have been failing people forever, but even more now with AI, they're not helping people. And actually, someone said yesterday in a conversation I had that we are now getting barrel organizations. So before, people used to talk about a triangle, lots of people at the bottom, then less people in the middle, and then even less at the top. But if we're not going to have anyone coming in at entry level, and we've got an aging population of people at the top, we're going to be like a barrel. Yeah, we're not going to be like a triangle anymore. And so I don't know what advice you have for organizations, or what you think they should be doing differently, what their responsibility is for the future, for the next generation of leaders. Any thoughts there that in addition to what you've already shared?
I think for me, what must change first? Leadership and governance. Yeah. if leadership structures are not accountable, this is at the very top, yeah? Remember, you talk about the triangle. The people at the bottom, they always be the one that bears the brunt, yeah? And then you have the one in the middle that they have a bit of, privilege, leverage, and then the people at the top, sometimes they tend to forget how it is. So when we think, so if they're not able to structure accountability for equity, for the change will remain superficial. Yeah. And institutions, they must treat equity, as you said, with the same seriousness as financial oversight or clinical governance in my sense. Yeah. So real change it requires that leadership commits to accountability, intentionality. Yeah. And then when it comes to institutions, organizations, companies, with even the government, we need to improve recruitment. Yeah, but they've improved when it comes to recruitment, but they've not actually addressed the retention. Remember I said about the leakage, yeah? So they bring diverse talent into the organization, but they fail to create that environment where they're able to thrive long term. So when you're thinking about the responsibility for institutions, they need to embrace building systems that can support career progression, psychological safety, and leadership access. Leadership access, because I think that is where many of us or many organizations where they fall short. And one of the most overlooked issues is the mental burden. The mental burden of being the only one in a space. Remember the pinnacle at the top? And like many professionals, we carry this pressure of representing our entire community. I'm sure that resonates with you. That emotional load is rarely acknowledged by institutions if you think about it. So there needs to be a move beyond treating because it does affect our mental state, as an individual, resilience issue, and recognizing how systemic, pressures can contribute to stress and burnout. I know it's like I'm speaking with so much. It's just that it is a lived experience. Do you understand? It's just being intentional, listening, empathy. You're not going to fix it one day, yeah? There's a word that says Rome was not built in a day. It was not built in a day. But there needs to be an intentional, steps towards a better future, for all. Because each one of us, we have a responsibility. When that is why we as individuals, yourself, Jenny, yourself, Leah, especially with the amazing thing that you've done with Dawn, your project, that is amazing. That is on an individual level. Imagine our coming together collectively and not working in silos. Do you know how much impact that we're going to have? And just like I said, intentional is the mentality as well. The world is for all of us. There is enough space for all. There is
I love
enough
that.
space.
I love that so much. I feel like this is, again, something that we're hearing echoed on this series, that there is enough for all of us. It's
Yes.
okay to take up space. It's okay to be reminded of your worth and to be grounded in that and in your power. But there's also so much power in community. I just feel so positive right now. Like this has been such a great conversation.
Yeah, no, it is, because we're not just talking the talk. We're walking the walk. Do you understand? There's something about you speaking about something, but what are you actively doing about it? And that is what we're doing. So this conversation is not just for the hair. It's not just because we just want to speak. No, it's because we want change, and we are being part of the change. The more we speak about it, the further it goes. For them to know something. If not one, not two, not three people are speaking about the same thing and saying something is wrong, come on, we gotta do something about it, right? So it's gotta fall into the right ears that have the power to make a change. But we all have the power. We just need to contribute to the power. Remember that triangle? Without the base, the triangle cannot stand. It cannot.
My mom used to say to me, the strongest shape is a triangle. That's what my mom used to say to me as well.
Do you see how big the bottom is, isn't it? It's true. And that's the foundation. If the foundation collapse, you know what happens. If the foundation is not right, if the foundation is not built on the right principles, ethics, and, access for people, you cannot. It's like stairs. It's like if you're living in a building that have how many story buildings, without the stairs or the lift, you cannot get to the top.
It's true. It's true. So we will move on to the quick fire round now. So this is one of my favorite parts of the whole episode. Every time we record, just because I feel like you get such really quick, incredible snippets of information, and also it tends to be really inspirational. No matter how quick it is. So what is one myth about STEM careers that you would like to dismantle?
That it requires you to be a genius. To be a genius. We're all genius in our own right, yeah? But you know what I mean by that. You need to be exceptional. You need to have the A grades. There's all beautiful. You can have the A grade, but not all of us have that linear journey. Remember, it's not all of, science is collaborative, if you think about it, and it thrives on diverse perspectives.
It does. It really does. What is one intervention that could dramatically improve diversity in STEM within the next 5 years?
Mandatory equity audits, consistently, we have to consistently do that check. That measure of representation, of leadership access, of promotion patterns, that needs, it's and it can be done. Like I said, intentional leadership.
And what is one piece of advice that you would give your younger self entering your science studies or career?
Don't believe that you can't.
I love that.
Yeah. Don't ever believe that you can't. One thing that I've found is sometimes many fail at just that one attempt. They fail at just that, oh, I told you my story. I could have said, maybe it's true, because come on, I even did computer science. Can you imagine? I loved computing anyway, but the coding, it was just not me. That's why we're unique. But look at me today, a leader in STEM, not just any leader. I have a voice. But it didn't all start off smoothly, did it? No. And I'm sure that's the story of many. Don't stop at that one failure. When you get knocked down, you get back up again. But one thing I would say, you cannot do it alone. You cannot. You cannot. You need the right support system. You need the network. You cannot do it alone. You cannot get to the top alone. And many people that you find at the top, they have hand holding. So that's why I always say, as a leader, as you're climbing up, just make sure to bring somebody up. Don't break that ladder. Make sure that ladder is sturdy, that is standing, so that other people can climb, with you, so that we can, that pinnacle, that top, we can all, get there. So don't ever shrink yourself. Be open. Ask for help. It's so important. Ask for help. It does not make you weak. Because that's what we think. Yeah, but it's true. We think about this independence. I'm an independent woman. Oh yeah, you can be independent and still ask for help. It's like a leader that doesn't know how to delegate. You're gonna have an empty cup. Even that empty cup is gonna have holes in it by the time you're done, So that's what I have to say. And remember, no ceiling. There's no ceiling that cannot be removed. Yeah, always work on removing barriers.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for recording with us today. This has been such a great conversation. I feel like we could talk all day with the three of us. Yeah.
I think that anyone listening just got a really good mentoring session.
Yeah.
The listeners are full, they're inspired, they're ready to take action after listening to you today. And you've really shown that it can be done. A fantastic role model and inspiration to everyone. And we can't wait to see, how your proposal moves forward and the difference that it makes for the world. And thank you for thinking beyond yourself and thinking about everyone else and how they can contribute and how you can make a difference. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for listening to AI for Equity. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay curious, stay bold, and keep using AI to build a fairer future.